Under a cloak of darkness, beneath a sky spangled with ancient starlight, Carthago Nova stood unyielding, its walls kissed by the murmuring sea, a fortress etched into whispers of granite and legend. Emboldened by ambition, Roman figures moved like shadows, rope ladders coiled snugly underarm, strands of hope sewn from hemp and hide, ready to conquer heights. Yet, beneath the earth, in a world of untamed fur and twitching whiskers, another story brewed. Rabbits, innocent thieves of slumbering secrecy, nibbled through destiny with gentle teeth. In this dance of man and nature, ancient forces converged. When silence broke and ladders snapped, it wasn't just a siege that failed, it was hubris gnawed by the simplest mouths. Join me now as we journey back to a distant age, where the misty cliffs of ancient Iberia cradle tales filled with intrigue and whimsy. Picture Carthago Nova, an impregnable fortress standing defiantly atop its rocky perch, serenaded by the whispers of the Mediterranean and the echoes of a storied past. The city, once the crown jewel of the Carthaginian Empire, beckoned to conquerors with its aura of myth and might. It stood as a bastion of commerce and military prowess, projecting Carthaginian authority across land and sea. The city's walls, braced by nature's embrace and fortified by human ingenuity, rose majestically from the cliffs, overlooking the waves in a posture that mocked any would-be invaders. Each stone, each tower, heralded the brilliance of its builders, blending seamlessly with the rugged landscape to create an unyielding fortress. When Rome cast its ambitious eyes upon Carthago Nova, it was not merely a city they sought to capture. It was the linchpin of their strategic conquest. The importance of Carthago Nova transcended its stone walls and harbour. It was the keystone to loosening Carthage's grip on the western Mediterranean. Romans, driven by the promise of glory, gazed upon the fortress not just as a prize, but as a grand leap toward Iberian domination. The prospect of conquering this bastion fed their dreams of outshining Carthage and imprinting their indomitable legacy across Europe. Yet beyond the stirring narratives of empires clashing, the stage was set for an unforeseen player to shine, a simple creature overlooked amidst grand plans and ambitions. Amidst the stone and steel, rabbits thrived innocuously. These small whizzers, typically unnoticed, became curious co-conspirators in the unfolding tale. As Roman preparations were made to scale the precipitous cliffs, unbeknownst to them, their carefully coiled ropes and gear became the rabbits' chew toys, gnawed upon with instinctive diligence and sharp, tiny teeth. Undeterred by conventional siege limitations, the Romans devised plans laced with stealth over brawn, aiming to surmount the cliffs under cover of night using ropes. Soldiers, filled with quiet resolve and trepidation, prepared meticulously, poised for an ascension promising grandeur. It was a plan of cunning simplicity, balancing the thrill of dare and discipline. As night unfurled its cloak and the signal for the attack was given, soldiers, hearts thunderous with expectation, began their climb. Yet the shifting night would betray their hopes as the ropes gave way mid-ascent, causing dreams of victory to unravel alongside fraying fibres. The silent chaos unveiled by the breaking lines turned the orchestrated siege into a disorderly retreat, cascading soldiers back to the realities of stone and soil beneath, a grim testament to lessons unforeseen. What had started with confidence quickly became pandemonium, as misunderstood orders and frantic retreats spread confusion. Above, Carthaginian guards, roused from slumber, struggled to decipher the alarms, Their initial bewilderment soon met with bemusement at the chaos below. Arrows flew sporadically into the shadows, their strings yet unsure of an enemy, mostly unopposed by human means. As dawn cast light upon the battlefield's clamour, clarity replaced chaos, revealing the calamitous handiwork of nature in its humble guise. Amongst the echoes of lament sat an undeniable truth. The ropes lay shredded by creatures oblivious to the designs of men. The rabbit's work compelled reflection and acknowledgement of nature's role in human endeavours. From amidst the haze of defeat, Romans gleaned that monumental strategies could falter in the face of seemingly insignificant foes. Their writings thereafter chronicled the unexpected consequences of neglecting the lesser elements of siege warfare. New procedures were prescribed, promoting vigilance against earthly inhabitants who might undermine grand designs from below. For Carthago Nova, the failed siege evolved into a narrative of whimsy interlaced with legacy. The city stood proud as a symbol not only of resilient architecture, but as a monument to the unpredictable theatre of war. It boasted tales of remarkable resistance, now enriched by the peculiar heroics of its smallest denizens. With time, the story would morph into a legend, memorialising nature's unpredictable interventions amidst human ambitions. A tale shared around hearths, reminding listeners of where humility met hubris. As Carthago Nova's walls eventually succumbed to Roman persistence, they did so not merely as stone surrendering to siege, but as hallowed ground enriched by stories that deepened the contours of its history. In the world of Roman military strategy, siegecraft stood as a gleaming symbol of innovation and relentless ambition. Siege warfare was not merely about force, but a careful blend of engineering genius and psychological cunning. At the heart of the Roman Empire's expansion lay a mastery of siege tactics, ever evolving as they clashed with fortified cities. The Romans, learning from earlier encounters with stubborn defences, were not chiselers at walls but scientists of strategy. Engineers known as architecti militaris were pivotal to campaigns, crafting ingenious methods to breach even the most daunting defences. They studied fortifications with a scrutinising eye, piecing together plans aided by deserters or scouts. This methodical approach to warfare turned siegecraft from crude persistence into a refined science. Throughout, materials and mechanics were married to human psychology. The Romans knew a shattered wall achieved little without crushing the defender's resolve, and their presence alone could incite panic. Siege towers loomed while catapults hurled stones with deadly accuracy. The mechanical orchestra included instruments like the towering helepolis and fearsome ballistae, reminders of Roman innovation. Yet power alone wasn't enough. The Romans expertly wielded these machines, systematically unravelling a city's defences. Perhaps the most astonishing feat was their ability to reshape landscapes to their will. When the natural terrain presented barriers, Roman ramps rose like gigantic earthworms, climbing towards the heavens. Soldiers and labourers crafted these massive structures, transforming topographical disadvantages into convenient ascent routes. These ramparts defied slopes and cliffs, allowing siege engines to trundle towards their targets. The scale was immense. Ramps stretched lengthwise over daunting spans, an amalgamation of dirt, wood, and stone. Labourers, often prisoners or enslaved captives, became crucial players in this spectacle of strength and skill, crafting broad paths as wide as city streets, topped with resilience and precision. The battering ram, or Ares, took centre stage in this theatre of war. Its simple, yet devastating design epitomised Roman ingenuity. a massive beam topped with iron, swung mightily from a covered testudo-like frame, striking fear into defenders. Teams of men operated these siege beasts, pumping relentless energy into each swing, synchronizing motions to maximize impact. Defenders attempted every countermeasure their minds conceived, launching stones, unleashing flames, but the ram's rhythm often spelled doom. Its thundering beat wore down gates and spirits alike. In challenging terrain, larger machines were replaced by nimble tactics. Rope assaults were the Romans' nod to flexibility. These warriors used ladders fashioned from hemp, flax, or animal hide, embracing the night as their veil. Stealthy climbs turned cliffs into tactical canvases, where soldiers ascended under starlight, each grip a balance between precision and peril. Each operation was fraught with tension, a gamble where a misplaced foot could end in disaster. Climbing teams knew the stakes well. Their silence and courage formed pivotal arrows in Rome's quiver. To the defenders, these shadowy silhouettes were spectres, ghostly affronts to their defences. Equally impressive was the Romans' calculated approach, where angles and trajectories were plotted with meticulous care. Siege plans were architectural masterpieces, where surveying tools denoted straight lines, and ram targets were chosen with mathematic elegance. Every battering ram strike, every launched projectile carried the weight of analysed arithmetic, leveraging physics to great ends. While engineering prowess was the foundation, the legionaries were the beating heart of siegecraft. These soldiers, warriors, and builders alike were conditioned for the grind of drawn-out campaigns. Earthworks, camps, fortifications flowed from their seasoned hands, forging siege rings that suffocated cities into submission. Siegecraft demanded camaraderie, where collective diligence and competition fueled unyielding spirit. Beneath fort walls, stories of valour bolstered actions and kept their resolve steadfast. Adapting to terrain was an intellectual pursuit as much as a physical one. Roman engineers confronted obstacles like cliffs and ravines, transforming these hurdles into tactical opportunities. They gathered local materials, remoulding terrains to serve military needs. Yet each failed siege was vital, revealing flaws and educating future campaigns. Adaptability was the Roman secret weapon, where failures laid groundwork for victories. Ravaged ladders might be misfortune, but they were also lessons, dialogues in resilience and survival. When sheepish rabbits gnawed through Roman ropes, the annoyance became wisdom, teaching the unpredictability of warfare. In these failures thrived Roman adaptability, always spinning setback into an avenue for advancement. Siegecraft wasn't just practicality. It punctuated Roman lore with stories of heroism and cunning. Ephemeral tales fluttered through Roman culture, sketched by historians like Livy or spun by poets, seeding collective identity. Roman siegecraft stood as the epitome of their civilization's innovation, threading through tales as a reminder of Roman mind and mettle. Darkness settled over Carthago Nova as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city into a stark silhouette against the night. Roman soldiers, wearing their woven tunics and leather armour, felt the chill of the night biting at their faces and hands. They huddled for warmth, breaths appearing as ghostly wisps in the brisk air. The silence was dense, amplifying every sound in this unfamiliar territory. These men, withdrawn from their warm Italian homeland, stood tense, hearts pounding with a blend of excitement and fear. These hours of darkness were far from idle. They were crucial for fortifying resolve and drawing strength from comradeship. Each soldier knew the vital role he played in this risky mission. In the quiet, thoughts raced through their minds, calculations of risks, recollections of past battles, and silent prayers to the gods they clung to. Their mission was nothing short of perilous: to scale the steep cliffs of Carthago Nova under cover of night and secure a strategic foothold for the Roman army. Commanders whispered last-minute instructions. The plan depended entirely on stealth and speed, a delicate balance. In the shadows, officers gathered their men, discussing strategies in hushed tones. Precision was key. Each soldier had trained meticulously to climb with agility and silence. They checked their equipment, rope ladders, grappling hooks and climbing gear, ensuring all was secure and easily accessible. The rope, their symbolic lifeline to success, felt reassuringly rough. Still, none noticed the subtle fraying, an omen of hidden troubles. Officers mentally mapped out the ascent route, describing every detail like a map etched in their minds. The climb was envisioned not in daylight but in the pitch dark, each step a calculated act against both nature and any alert defenders. Muscles tensed in anticipation as they counted down to action. Under night's shroud, time became both ally and adversary, and stealth was paramount. One false move could awaken their foes, ending the operation before it began. With no moon, Roman soldiers turned skyward, seeking guidance from the stars. These celestial bodies were constant companions, guiding soldiers in foreign lands. To the Romans, mastering the art of navigating by starlight was as vital as swordsmanship. They quietly adjusted their positions according to the constellations, feeling a profound connection to the universe. The stars were not mere guides, but symbols of the divine. Each warrior glanced upward, drawing strength from these distant worlds. Their light offered comfort where darkness reigned, providing hope where all seemed silent and still. As they readied for the climb, the infinity above reminded each soldier of his place. Tonight they were guided by stars, daring to intertwine destiny and history on the cliffs of Carthago Nova. Silence reigned as the Romans approached the crucial moment. Communication was reduced to urgent whispers, gestures, and meaningful eye contact. Officers issued orders with subtle nods or pointed fingers, respecting the necessity for silence. Each rustle carried the risk of echoing through the enemy lines, turning whispers into potential disasters. Despite this, the weight of urgency infused every interaction, transmitting resolve and guidance. Preparation was key, blending memory and instinct into a harmonious understanding of each man's role. The soldiers listened with more than ears, attuned to the presence of their comrades and the shifting currents of the night. Preparations complete, the soldiers stood poised for action, the night seemingly holding its breath with them. Each inhale was heavy with anticipation, each heartbeat a countdown to the chaos and confrontation soon to unfold. The night air was thick with potential and peril, demanding resolution. For a brief moment, time seemed suspended, a final pause before the storm. Soldiers cast their thoughts to distant homes, drawing courage from memories. They bottled this calm, storing it deep within, ready to unleash it upon the rocky cliff they were about to scale. Every soldier understood the significance of camouflage, blending into the shadows of this moonless night. They were trained to move like phantoms, muffling movement, minimizing their presence. It required more than physical skill. It demanded a psychological shift, transforming each soldier into an extension of the landscape. Their footprints became echoes of silence, breaths synchronized with nature's rhythm. This art of concealment was ingrained through discipline. Tonight they prayed their stealth might transcend even the sharp-eyed Carthaginian defenders. The soldiers meticulously checked their equipment, knowing each piece was critical. The rope ladders securely coiled for silent deployment, grappling hooks ready for swift anchoring, and weapons sheathed, all suggesting readiness for combat should stealth fail. Light armour offered agility and protection, but none suspected the danger residing in the very fibres of their ropes. Adjustments were made with reverent care. This implicit meditation connected them with their tools, unconsciously linking their survival to Roman engineering and craftsmanship. Patience was their ally. Masters of strategic timing, Romans stood poised, waiting for optimal conditions, warm winds, the rhythm of gentle waves masking their steps. Timing became the invisible thread between thought and action. There was an art to patience, each soldier resisting the urge to proceed too soon. Attuned to instinct, they awaited the right moment, a whisper through marrow, a nudge of the soul. Movement ceased to be hesitant, morphing into precision. A soft whistle signalled the shift from readiness to action. Shadows detached from the earth, soldiers becoming lines of purpose as they approached the cliffs. Movement flowed with rehearsed precision as grappling hooks flew, muted against the rock. Rope ladders unfurled to form pathways over unyielding precipice. The climb began, an ordeal of endurance heightened by the night's constraints. Muscles burned while hearts and minds embraced the challenge. Each step another echo of resolve against history's scrutiny. As they ascended, they met themselves in the night's embrace, integral parts of Rome's grand narrative, stars above watching over their daring descent. The rocky landscape surrounding Carthago Nova was home to a hidden ally that the Romans never considered in their strategic plans: rabbits. These small creatures, adept at surviving and evading predators, thrived under the Mediterranean stars, their presence barely discernible save for soft pathways and obscure burrow entrances. As Roman scouts moved silently under the vast sky, they unknowingly walked over these unassuming but formidable guardians of their territory. Concealed by the greenery and crags, the rabbits remained unrecognised, their plans quietly aligning against the Romans, nestled within the inviting landscape. Roman soldiers, adhering to their disciplined nature, dismissed non-human elements of their environment, focusing on Carthago Nova's imposing walls and their human adversaries. Yet, nestled amid the lush soil, these rabbits were drawn to the same abundant land as the invaders. As the Romans set up camp, the rabbits saw their chance, lured by the promise of easy nesting materials, among the supplies the soldiers had unwittingly left behind. For these furry residents, the guest offerings were irresistible, sparking an engagement as old as time. In the hustle of siege preparations, the soldiers were oblivious to the threat gnawing away at their plans. Entrenched in their dutiful routines, they ignored the subtle signs of impending sabotage. With growing incisors and a need for nesting essentials, the rabbits saw opportunity in the coils of rope at the cliff's base. Perfect for their needs, the thick, durable fibres were repurposed, slowly shredded, leaving behind only inconspicuous debris, mingling with earth and stone. As time slipped toward dawn, the rabbits' secretive defiance grew evident. Unbeknownst to the soldiers, these strands of rope, once symbolic of strength and resilience, lay in quiet betrayal. To the untrained eye, they appeared reliable, but inside, their integrity was compromised by an adversary no war engineer could have predicted. It's ironic how an empire known for its conquest and technology found itself thwarted by rodents, engaged in naive survival, a testament to how even the smallest players can shift the tides of history. Rabbits tread the line between tame and wild, often dismissed yet significant in their ecological influence. In Carthago Nova's region, they found a haven rich in necessities: grasses, mild weather, and human adventurers unknowingly generous with resources. They were no mere curiosities. Their presence symbolised a balance where predators and environmental engineers shared their realm. Though largely ignored by Roman records, locals knew them better. Their habitual evasion masked intentional sabotage in the face of Roman oversight. By fulfilling their basic instincts, these rabbits unwittingly exploited a flaw, highlighting the strangely poetic opposition of nature against human ambition. This instance wasn't an anomaly. The annals of military history have recorded animal interventions, often with a mix of disdain and acknowledgement of innate cunning. Here, nature's impartial hand appeared to mock human strategies, turning the narrative of conquest into one where the smallest details often hold the keys to victory or defeat. As the soldiers steeled themselves for the night climb, tension hung in the air, the quiet stillness before the storm of action. They moved in silence to avoid alerting the sentinels above, ensuring their gear was both efficient and discreet. Yet beneath this disciplined preparation lurked a hidden threat woven into the very plan they trusted. The rabbits, systematically unravelling lengths of rope, left vulnerabilities where strength was assumed. As dawn neared, the soldiers, consumed by purpose, remained ignorant of the impending disaster in this critical oversight, a whisper hinting at nightmares to unfold. The rope ladders, ingenious in design, represented human effort to conquer walls. Light and strong, they provided a silent path upward for those courageous enough. Romans, trusting in their engineering and the tensile strength of nature's gifts, hadn't anticipated the rabbits' voracious needs. Their lapse was less an equipment failure than a failure to acknowledge the ecology around them, disregarding tales not of invulnerable machines, but of how nature itself can teach humility. Standing beneath Carthago Nova's heights, soldiers found an irony unfolding. Amidst the spectacle of war, nature defied human schematics, wielding creatures ignorant of strategy to unravel plans with finesse. The game set for warriors now involved a cast of characters unforeseen and chaotic. Roman tactics, reliant on the force of gravity, met the persistent, unyielding chomp of teeth, undoing their strategy with innocuous tenacity. Overlooking these creatures, their simple presence turned into a vivid lesson: the cost of dismissing the seemingly insignificant. These rabbits, nipping at the camp's fringe, revealed the folly of ignoring minor threats and underscored a military axiom: attention to the smallest elements can forestall the greatest mishaps. While troops prepared against armoured foes, they dismissed nature's quiet background tunes, exposing a blind spot chronicled in military lore for generations. Looking back, Roman commanders learned that military prowess combines inventive genius with flexibility against surprise. Carthago Nova's capture by Scipio Africanus came, but Rabbit's impact taught a broader awareness of nature's untamed potential in warfare. Nature's reminders influenced Rome, guiding new respect for modest allies in unexpected domains. The rabbits told tales echoing through the ages of humility and oversight, tempering the linear path of conquest into one of curious observation, of entwined destinies both comedic and profound. As dawn's fragile light stretched across the sky, it painted the cliffs of Carthago Nova in a soft gold. Roman soldiers stood ready at the base, anxiety and excitement a tightrope within them. Leather armour creaked as they moved, breath visible in the brisk morning air. Their rope ladders, tightly coiled under their arms, were supposed to be their ticket to surprise victory. These lattices of braided hemp were trusted to bear their weight in the ascent. The plan, in its simplicity, was to climb undetected, overpower the few guards above, and open the city from within. Yet, as they cast their eyes up at the towering expanse, the enormity of their task loomed both in stone and spirit. With the first rays of sun, they commenced their climb, unfurling the ladders with care and finding footholds along the rock's rough visage. It was a test of strength and silence. In whispers, they encouraged each other, a collective rhythm that fought against the pressing silence. Unbeknownst to them, an unseen threat lingered. The frayed rope ends, courtesy of the local rabbits' nighttime feast. As the sun climbed higher, each missed whisper of weariness in the rope beneath them carried the risk of disaster. Midway up the cliffside, one soldier paused, fingers white with exertion, sensing a sinister slackening in his rope. A single frayed strand seemed innocuous but held the weight of life and strategy. Doubts gnawed at him. Was it poor preparation? Was the rope inferior from the start? Yet shaking such thoughts aside, he ascended higher. The urgency of commands from below urged haste, a chorus chasing the uncertainty that whispered through their ranks. Then, a snap echoed, a clean break in the trust between man and material. Suddenly the world tilted, the soldier's heart leaping to his throat as the ground raced to meet him. A cry filled the air, the dull impact of bodies on earth following shortly. Similar sounds rippled along the cliff, a chain of failure and fragility. They hung mid-air, facing a sudden switch from warrior to survivor, while others fell, their hopes unravelling with them. Quickly the whispers of sabotage spread. An unseen hand had betrayed them, but not one of flesh and bone. Those at the base watched in disbelief, panic edging in as their comrades fell. Leaders shouted, trying to anchor control amidst the chaos. The ladder's failure demanded an explanation. Perhaps sabotage, enemy interference, lurking spies. Rumours flew like arrows, desperate to name an unseen foe in their ranks. Yet their minds were blind to the truth. Common rabbits had nibbled through their carefully laid plans, reducing them to fodder. The thought was absurd, ludicrous against the backdrop of Roman might, yet the evidence lay clear as day. Amongst the soldiers, realization dawned slowly. An officer pored over the chewed ropes, wrestling with the reality that such diminutive creatures could unravel their grand designs. Could rabbits, symbols of innocence and triviality, really be to blame? Rational minds buckled at nature's quiet sabotage. For men trained against armed foes, facing this betrayal by nature was a twist few could have anticipated. Whispers of the sabotage spread quickly among the legions, where what began as incredulity transformed into grim humour. These stories, embellished with each retelling, turned rabbits into mythic foes. Even the battle-hardened had to chuckle at such cosmic irony. Their empire, vast and imposing, brought to a momentary halt by creatures of fur and whiskers. It was a humbling anecdote in humanity, a reminder that despite their dominions, nature had its own jokes to share. Unpredictable and unyielding. Out of this surreal defeat arose unity touched by humour. Though failure lingered, laughter bridged the ranks. Sentries joked about keeping rabbit watch, musing over constructing carrot walls. This rare admission of nature's unpredictability taught humility, a lesson passed around campfires. Their failure due to rabbits served as a reminder of their vulnerability, and in doing so, reinforced their resolve. Amidst the chaos, centurions sought equilibrium. balancing urgent strategy shifts with confidence restoration. Commands echoed out, trying to repair broken morale while adjusting their tactics. Leaders debated, acknowledge the absurd reality, or maintain the silence of stoicism. As darkness fell, they traded climbing ropes for sharper caution. Their new strategies evolved against unforeseen foes, ensuring Rome would not again be caught off guard by nature's wily hand. In medieval warfare, the unseen often dictated outcomes just as swords. This encounter with rabbits affirmed that while strategy might be crafted in stone, it was susceptible to nature's spidery wings. By encountering a challenge so absurd yet enlightening, the Romans learned anew that mastery over nature was ever elusive. Each crackle of fire reminded them of Earth's unpredictable orchestra, enforcing that no manual could anticipate such capriciousness. Days would pass, new ropes and strategies adopted, but the narrative lingered. It was told over fires, a lesson wrapped in laughter and grace, inspiring camaraderie and caution in equal measure. They had been bested by rabbits, yet with each retelling, they were reminded of their determination. In facing surreal adversity, they had been reshaped with insight, ready to engage in their ambitions afresh, ever conscious of where shadows loom unseen. In the shadowy embrace of a moonless night, Carthago Nova lay silent. The rocky cliffs beneath the fortress stood like watchful sentinels, their grandeur masked by darkness. Only the rhythmic crash of waves against stone pierced the stillness, blending with the muffled whispers of Roman soldiers huddled in preparation for their climb. There was a tangible tension in the air, a blend of anticipation and trepidation, as these seasoned warriors clutched at their gear, their eyes betraying a flicker of doubt despite their carefully laid plans. In the enveloping silence, every rustle of leaves or scrape of armour seemed amplified, feeding the creeping doubt. Was something sinister lurking in the dark, or were they merely at the mercy of the night? Unbeknownst to the Roman forces, a quiet army of rabbits was poised to unweave their ambitions. With every step taken on the soft ground, soldiers brushed past burrows hidden under the earth, their existence unnoticed amid strategic calculations. The Romans felt confident the night was their ally, a cloak under which to move unseen. But beneath their feet lay a ticking time bomb of rodent mischief. The plan was clear and bold. Use rope ladders to scale the cliffs, gain a foothold by dawn, and open the gates for the main force. Trusted in past sieges, these ladders symbolise their confidence, earnestness and discipline, honed over decades of relentless warfare. Yet, as the Romans began their ascent, an unforeseen adversary undermined their efforts. The rabbits had gnawed relentlessly, unravelling the fibres of the rope ladders coiled grandly at the base. In the depth of night, the soldiers tugged at these fraying ropes, oblivious to their compromised strength. The first sign of calamity echoed through the darkness with the unsettling snapping of cords. This sound, sharp and sudden, reverberated like a death knell, sending men plummeting into chaos below. Confidence shattered as Roman soldiers plunged into the void, their orderly march devolving into disarray. Commands to regroup or hold ranks fell on deaf ears, overwhelmed by the cries of men and the relentless pull of gravity. Amidst this pandemonium, Roman commanders struggled in vain to impose order, their carefully crafted plans dissolving faster than they could control. In the swirl of confusion, miscommunication reigned. Panicked shouts and half-heard orders drowned out any chance of restoring discipline. Arrows from above, misinterpreted as a coordinated Carthaginian counterattack, further deepened the chaos, leading many Romans to retreat while others froze in place, paralysed by fear and uncertainty. The Carthaginians, shocked awake by the noise, misconstrued the sounds below as a massive assault. In confusion, they armed themselves and scattered throughout the defences, firing blindly into the night. More than targeting their foes, their arrows rained down upon the underbrush and shadows, causing chaos among the Romans already struggling with their cascading casualties. Their defensive response, a mix of instinct and training, played into the Roman plight, adding to an atmosphere of dread made tangible by nature's own unseen hand. As the night dragged on, both sides found themselves facing an unforeseen standstill. The Romans, halted by fate, regrouped amid the chaos and assessed their misstep. Meanwhile, the Carthaginians realised that the night had not delivered the full assault they had feared. With the first light of dawn, the battlefield revealed the absurdity of the night. Shattered ladders chewed through by the delicate teeth of unsuspecting rodents. For the Romans, the morning brought a sobering realisation. Their ambitions had been thwarted not by superior foes, but by diligent creatures they had deemed irrelevant. Pieces of gnawed rope lay scattered, remnants of a critical oversight. In the wake of this disaster lay a harsh lesson. Warfare waged not merely against men, but against the predictable unpredictability of nature. This incident, bound to become part of Roman law, would find its way into military treatises, adding tooth-borne theft to the array of challenges soldiers might face. Despite the embarrassment, the Romans took solace in reflective irony. They embraced the lesson born of folly, knowing that nature's subtle intervention often proved more formidable than enemy spears. What started as a logistical failure turned to folklore, the siege that failed because rabbits ate the ropes, and etched itself into the consciousness of strategists for generations. The tale, passed between campaign firesides, reminded soldiers and historians alike of the unpredictable forces that play upon lofty ambitions. It was a narrative whispering of humility, where nature's smallest actors could spin empires into chaos, recasting the failure as a humorous yet profound reflection on the intricacies of conquest. In the pale morning light, the true scale of the Roman catastrophe came into sharp relief. The once shadowed cliffs now lay bare, revealing the extent of a botched siege. A sombre air clung to the rocks as Roman soldiers moved among the debris, their expressions heavy with disbelief and humiliation. The scene was one of surreal devastation, a tableau not of human conflict, but of nature's peculiar intervention. Hopeful thoughts of victory lay scattered alongside the shredded remnants of rope ladders, each frayed strand and rabbit track sketching out a story of unexpected guardians defending Carthago Nova with tooth and claw. Losses were keenly felt, but the deeper wound was to Roman pride. As soldiers examined the cliffside, clues quickly surfaced about their mysterious saboteurs. The ropes, streaked with grime and pocked by tiny bite marks, pointed to a most unconventional culprit. Nearby, droppings and burrows plainly signalled that this was no ordinary wear and tear. These simple signs narrated a tale of nocturnal feasting by rabbits. Despite their training in strategy and warfare, the Roman soldiers found their elaborate plans unravelled by creatures indifferent to conquest. The rabbits gnawed through the very fabric of siege warfare, reducing Roman strategy to little more than a feast for the furry inhabitants of the cliffs. Roman engineers, well versed in the arts of fortification and logistics, now faced the awkward task of explaining a failure not born of metal or miscalculation, but rooted in the vulnerability of their materials. Plans that seemed unassailable in the workshop had not accounted for nature's cunning adaptability. In drafting their reports, the engineers detailed the oversight, their sturdy ropes left helpless against rodent interference. This embarrassing incident turned into a cautionary tale, a humbling reminder that even the strongest military strategies can be undermined by the smallest, most unforeseen agents of chaos. For the seasoned Roman legions, men steeped in battlefield glory, this unexpected challenge struck at the heart of their honour. Soldiers who had withstood countless threats bravely were now laid low by an opponent that mocked their martial prowess through survival instincts alone. Their officers hurried to manage the blow to morale. To confess a defeat by rabbits would sap the soldiers' spirit. Therefore, the strategy was one of damage control, framing this not as a combat failure, but as a temporary setback, a learning opportunity rather than a blemish on their proud legacy. As whispers of the failed attack spread through the Roman ranks, so did colourful rumours and exaggerated tales. Stories of hungry hares gnawing at ropes while the Romans slept leapt from cohort to cohort, acquiring a mythic air. The tale of the rabbits of Carthago Nova soon became a source of gallows humour among the soldiers. What began as a painful embarrassment transformed into a symbol of warfare's unpredictability. This shift lightened tensions, allowing laughter to replace shame, turning a military misstep into an enduring tale of irony and jest. Meanwhile, atop the fortified walls of Carthago Nova, the Carthaginian defenders savoured their unforeseen victory. The Romans' failure was a delight, and the rabbit story added a layer of gleeful mockery. From their vantage point, Carthaginians perceived their city's defences as not just bolstered by stone and manpower, but aided by nature herself. They sensed that this bizarre defeat would serve as a psychological deterrent to future assaults. The mere thought of encountering another humiliating setback becoming a mental barrier for Roman invaders. For Roman command, this unusual defeat spurred a re-evaluation of siege tactics. Their traditional techniques centred on human weaponry were challenged by an unforeseen fauna. This prompted broader consideration of environmental factors in military planning. This introspection marked a turning point. Roman engineers began incorporating measures to prevent further rabbit incidents, such as keeping materials off the ground and reassessing resource placement, reshaping their siegecraft philosophy to embrace all potential adversarial elements within the natural world. The Roman leadership absorbed a valuable lesson in humility. The engagement with Carthago Nova, underscoring that even the mightiest empires must yield to nature's whims. This was not merely a case of military misjudgment, but an opportunity to recalibrate an empire's confidence in its infallibility. In confronting this vulnerability, the Romans enriched their military ethos. They understood that true dominance required respect for all variables, including those unseen and underestimated. Thus, the incident stood as a poignant reminder that while humans often plan, nature ultimately sets the rules. As chroniclers documented the siege, they captured more than just troop movements and military manoeuvres. They immortalised the incident as a curious footnote in Roman history. Chroniclers treated it as a parable, rich with implications about human pride and nature's unpredictability. Their accounts transformed the setback into an invaluable lesson, handed down through the ages. It offered a practical reminder of military oversight and a broader commentary on the ephemeral nature of power, endowing this episode with a mix of caution and folklore. Today, the tale of the rabbits and the siege of Carthago Nova endures, often recounted as both a historical curiosity and a humorous blot in an otherwise disciplined military narrative. It illustrates how even the best laid plans can be undone in the most unlikely ways. The incident holds a mirror to human ambition, reflecting our propensity to overlook minor details with monumental impacts. It is this enduring appeal that ensures its story will be shared around firesides and in classrooms, reminding us that history captures human folly alongside grand feats. In ancient Rome, the military manuals held within them the lifeblood of an empire's survival on the battlefield. These tomes were more than just notes on warfare. They were living documents, capturing the evolution of Roman strategy and adapting with each hard-won lesson from the field. After the peculiar siege at Carthago Nova, these manuals took a curious turn, documenting encounters with some of the smallest yet surprisingly formidable foes, rodents. This unexpected addition marked a turning point, acknowledging that the path to victory could be sabotaged not only by cunning adversaries, but also by nature's unassuming warriors. The aftermath of Carthago Nova's rabbit calamity was a catalyst for this shift. Roman engineers, seasoned minds who had seen the might of man pitted against both human and natural elements, redefined their approach to logistics and defence. They began to incorporate warnings about these tooth-borne sabotage threats, sharing tales of leather tents gnawed into lacework, and ladders rendered useless overnight by the voraciousness of unseen nibblers. The manuals now echoed with a strategic wisdom that was grounded in the soil and sand of battlefields, rife with observations drawn from the gnawing mouths of wildlife. Rope ladders, those essential siege tools designed for stealth and surprise, became the focus of newfound scrutiny. Instead of being carelessly coiled on the ground, they were hung high, swaying in the wind, just out of reach of hungry rodents. Romans transformed their thinking, using local materials to construct improvised stands and racks, shifting from a battlefield mindset to one of crafty preparation and prevention. Engineers advocated for regularly inspecting and ensuring equipment remained untouched by nature's teeth, understanding that such vigilance could mean the difference between triumph and calamity. Beyond just rabbits, the pages of Roman manuals grew to include entries concerning a whole menagerie of threats. Mice, small yet persistent, could obliterate precious food supplies if left unchecked, while goats, ever the opportunists, saw siege equipment as little more than an afternoon snack. These insights prompted inventive solutions: sealant clay jars for grains, trenches built to deter burrowers, and instructions on how to guard food with vigilance. The ingenuity of Roman military minds knew no bounds, as they blended environmental consciousness with tactical necessity. Roman engineers, recognising their own limits, often turned to local experts, village-wise folk whose knowledge of regional fauna was steeped in generations. These collaborations expanded Roman manuals beyond simple military directives into compendiums of ecological wisdom. They absorbed and documented the intricacies of wildlife, learning about seasonal migrations, mating rituals, and the plants that deterred marauding creatures. This cross-pollination of ideas reflected the vastness of Roman adaptability, showing that even an empire as grand as Rome had room for humility, understanding that true strength lay in respecting the nuanced dance between human ambition and the natural world. Emerging from the tapestries of Carthago Nova's stories came an invaluable lesson on the dangers of hubris. The Romans, renowned for their might and innovation, were gently reminded that no enemy, however small, should be underestimated. Such stories were echoed in their manuals not just as accounts but as parables of wisdom. They spoke of anticipation, and the necessity of intricate reconnaissance, urging commanders to delve into the details of every campaign with heightened awareness, knowing that victory often hinged on understanding every variable in a complex, living equation. Stories of Roman adaptability became inspirational blueprints embedded with themes of continuous survival, encouraging innovation in the face of adversity. Tales were spun of engineers who leveraged local materials and knowledge to counter nature's mischief, teaching soldiers to think outside conventional strategy and to engage with their environment creatively. These narratives illustrated that triumph was not only the result of martial prowess, but of adaptability, a vision that was woven into the very fabric of Roman life, military and otherwise. Through humour, soft irony wove its way into the manuals as well, providing levity against past missteps. Roman scribes, with a tongue firmly in cheek, captured the absurdity of a force like Rome being undone by a band of determined rabbits. These stories, passed around campfires, offered a shared chuckle at Rome's expense, a reminder of the folly in assuming invincibility. The manuals became more than just military guides. They were cultural artefacts, preserving the ability to see grandeur's mistakes with a wink and a nod. The legacy of the rabbit siege endured in Roman manuals as a bulwark against arrogance. These writings stressed the importance of comprehensive foresight, training future generations to anticipate not just the enemy before them, but the quiet challenges posed by nature itself. By embracing this knowledge, the Romans fortified their strategic visions, infusing young soldiers with a wisdom that transcended simple battle tactics. This cumulative learning further shaped the Roman narrative, evolving their martial might into a nuanced force, ever ready to engage with a world as unpredictable as it was wondrous. Through such chronicles of misstep and mastery, Rome wrote its legacy of resilience into every new chapter of its sprawling story. The years had passed, but the memory remained. A city perched defiantly on Iberian cliffs, its walls unbreached despite Roman ambition. When Scipio Africanus finally set his sights on Carthago Nova, the air hummed with history and expectation. This wasn't just another conquest, it was the opportunity to rewrite a narrative marred by an unexpected rabbit's intervention years before. The Romans had since sharpened their claws across battlefields far and wide, refining strategies into a fine art of siege, while Carthago Nova lay beleaguered, grappling with internal strife and a palpable sense of weary resilience. Scipio entered the fray, not headlong but with measured precision. To breach Carthago Nova was to wade through more than stone walls. It meant dismantling the Carthaginian spirit, brick by aching brick. Roman ingenuity in siegecraft flourished under his command, not through sheer force, but through the subtle art of anticipation and adaptation. The Romans, keenly alert to the lessons past mishaps had taught them, transformed their preparations with cautious innovation. Gone were the hemp ladders vulnerable to the whims of nature. Instead, the camps were secure, materials robust, the stories of rabbit-driven past failures woven into a shared resolve never to be caught off guard again. Scipio's approach was one of deliberate attrition, a siege strategy that pressed the life out of defences as if from the inside. Roman soldiers, their resolve tempered by past victories and a sense of invulnerability, were primed for the protracted dance of encirclement. Each supply line cut, each route severed, amounted to a twist of the knife in both the physical and psychological ramparts of Carthago Nova. Soldiers behind those storied walls felt the press of Scipio's tactical patience. an unseen tide threatening to sweep them under. Yet though Carthago Nova braced under this siege's weight, those within the walls clung to their city's legacy of defiance. They faced not just a military force, but a creeping despair that sapped their strength from within as resources dwindled and ration lines grew longer. They battled this external assault in tandem with the internal erosion of solidarity. The salt of the nearby sea seemed to cling to each breath, a constant reminder of the city's stagnated pride. Meanwhile, outside, the Romans found inspiration in Scipio himself, a leader of tangible charisma, whose presence was both rallying cry and spectre of imminent victory. His ability to delve into human nature as deftly as into military manoeuvre became the hinge on which this confrontation turned. Scipio's strategic blueprint was lined with calculated manoeuvres that preyed upon Carthaginian discord, forging a psychological siege as impenetrable as any physical one. As fortifications gradually crumbled beneath relentless pressure, the defenders felt the strain of an untenable stand. Scipio's relentless precision wore thin their threads of unity. Even with moments of raw bravery and determination still within them, the Carthaginians could not forestall the eventual tide. Rome's grip tightened like the slow, inexorable draw of a winch, pulling Carthago Nova inch by painful inch toward its fate. In the closing acts, the siege's end arrived not with the crashing of gates, but with a series of subtle, decisive sessions. The defenders, exhausted and divided, faced the reality of Roman inevitability with a weary resignation. Surrender flowed, less a moment of crashing defeat, and more a gradual acceptance, mirrored by the silent invasion of Roman legions who found open gates where once turmoil reigned. Scipio's victory wasn't merely about expanding Rome's territory, but solidifying its legendary standing as purveyors of strategic dominance, where thorough planning merged seamlessly with opportunistic acuity. And yet within these grim histories lay the curious echo of nature's folly. The famed rabbit siege served as a reminder that even minutiae could tilt the scales of war. This legend, woven into the tapestry of triumphs and missteps, remained a whispered lesson among future strategists who learned to heed nature's unpredictable hand. It sparked reflection on the eternal dance of power and humility amidst the broader theatre of conflict, where even the seemingly insignificant could wield profound influence. The tale of Carthago Nova and its gnawed ladders became more than mere footnotes in history. They stood as testaments to the delicate balance of intention and circumstance, offering generations insights into the fabric of fate, as unpredictable and playful as only history can be. With each recounting, the tale served as a beacon of caution and inspiration, a signal fire against complacency, illuminating paths shaped by both human endeavour and the caprices of the world at large. Thus, as the annals of Roman triumphs continued to swell, the siege of Carthago Nova, in its peculiar mix of grand ambition and unexpected hiccups, remained etched in memory. In reminding warriors of the humble rabbit that once reshaped great plans, history preserved its lessons not only in the stones of conquered cities, but in the very spirit of adaptability and reflection that ensured Rome's place among the greats. In the grand theatre of war, human wit and strength are often pitted against formidable foes. However, on a quiet night at Carthago Nova, it was the seemingly insignificant that rose to prominence. The arena of ancient battles often had unexpected players, not of steel or strategy, but small and unassuming, like rabbits. While generals marvelled at siege engines, it was a creature with twitching noses and tiny teeth that altered the course of events, illustrating that the thread of history is woven with unpredictability. The Roman assault on Carthago Nova is a testament to nature's subtle influence on human affairs. Nestled snugly in their burrows, the rabbit population was blissfully unaware of the human drama playing out above. The Romans, confident in their engineering prowess, planned a strategic climb with rope ladders. Yet, unbeknownst to them, rabbits feasted on their precious gear. To the Romans, it was an enemy tactic. To the rabbits, it was a simple foraging quest. This mundane act of nature disrupted the grand human plan, serving as a reminder that victory often dances to nature's unpredictable tune. Warriors in armour are not the only defenders of cities. Every military plan, no matter how thoroughly crafted, is susceptible to nature's unpredictable influence. Roman records later recounted this episode, an awkward yet illuminating lesson in humility. The Romans learned the hard way that comprehensive strategies could unravel in the face of nature's unscripted dynamics. This was a moment where Earth's own laws taught the Romans about the limits of their control, imparting wisdom that extended beyond the battlefield. The defence of Carthago Nova by its unassuming rabbits brings new meaning to the notion of guardianship. It was not military might nor fortifications that stalled the Roman advance, but simple wildlife driven by instinct. In this story of survival, the rabbits were not acting out of design, but their impact was undeniable. They illustrated how nature's dynamics could weave themselves into the fabric of human strife, often making more significant contributions than any martial weapon. For Roman engineers, the chewed ropes and gnawed plans became lessons etched into history. The aftermath of this encounter with nature's unpredictability led to adjustments in military doctrine. Future strategies had to account for natural phenomena, acknowledging that ecosystems are an integral part of any struggle. Engineers began documenting measures to protect vital equipment from nature's reach, signalling a shift towards planning that respected the mysteries of the natural world. This wasn't solely a precautionary tale, it was an acknowledgement of nature's omnipresent influence on human endeavours. The siege's failure at the paws of curious rabbits speaks broadly to the fragile stead of human ambitions. It underscores civilization's vulnerability, regardless of its perceived strength. Often, it is nature's quiet might, not foes, that tips the scale of human enterprise. The Carthago Nova incident compels us to embrace a humility that recognizes the balance between human ambition and nature's overwhelming force. Empires have risen and fallen in a dance with nature, reiterating that respect for the natural world is an essential facet of survival and success. In today's world, the story of rabbits thwarting a siege transcends its humour-filled origins. It becomes a metaphor for the random challenges in our lives. We continue to face unexpected hurdles, our own rabbit ladders that can upend the most elaborate plans. This tale encourages businesses, leaders, and individuals alike to examine and adapt strategies, acknowledging that the smallest details can ripple through grand designs, shaping outcomes in ways never foreseen. It's not just a relic of the past, but a persistent reminder to integrate adaptability and appreciation for nature's complexities into our modern outlook. The saga of Carthago Nova's thwarted siege calls for a re-evaluation of our relationship with the natural world. It highlights the need for humility when facing life's challenges, showing that no amount of planning can encompass the complexity of reality. From the burrows of Carthago Nova, deep lessons emerge, inviting us to embrace failures as opportunities for growth and adaptation. Through this lens, history serves not as a static record, but as a dynamic guide to navigating our myriad challenges. As we revisit this tale, drawn from antiquity's annals, the essence of harmony with nature echoes through to modern times. The siege by rabbits underscores our role as guardians rather than conquerors. As humanity grapples with ecological challenges today, the lessons from Carthago Nova beckon us to foster coexistence with the natural forces that share our world. In the end, the implications of this localised skirmish resonated beyond its immediate boundaries. The image of tiny creatures influencing grand plans captured imaginations across generations. Chroniclers of old immortalised the rabbit's victory, understanding it as a potent reminder of nature's unchecked agency. Passed down through folklore, the incident remains a testament to the profoundly humorous and instructive interplay between man's ambitions and nature's steadfast assertions. Thus, as the story of Carthago Nova's rabbit-induced siege draws to a close, it captures history's intricate tapestry, one woven with courage, folly, and the small wonder of life's intricate patterns. This tale reinforces the idea that history's most profound insights often sprout from the most unexpected corners. As we reflect on these moments and continue our explorations into the past, we are reminded to appreciate the lessons embedded within the fabric of time, urging viewers to like and subscribe as we delve further into these fascinating narratives that enrich our understanding of the human story.